The call is free and we'll gladly talk about your situation with you. If you have a case that we can help with, you will owe us nothing out of pocket. We actually make the insurance company pay for us to help you.
There you have it. Call the Advocates at 406-640-4444 or go online, MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve the Advocates on your side.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com. When you're beyond the reach of cable and fiber internet, look up. Eagle Satellite is our community-authorized HughesNet retailer. With HughesNet, you'll have the fast speeds, unlimited data with no hard data limits, and the built-in Wi-Fi you need. Eagle Satellite has helped our community get online for 39 years. For a limited time, get free standard installation when you order HughesNet from Eagle Satellite. Call Eagle Satellite at 406-728-9999 and see for yourself why HughesNet is America's #1 choice for satellite internet. That's Eagle Satellite at 406-728-9999. Call now.
Help protect our community from prescription drug misuse, abuse, and overdose on National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. This Saturday, you can turn in your unused or expired medications at the Grizz game. Just look for the DEA booth at the parking lot near the entrance of the stadium. If you can't make it to the game, go to MissoulaCounty.us for a list of Dropbox locations in Missoula. This event is brought to you by Curry Health Center, Safe Kids Missoula at Foundation for Community Health, and the Prescription Drug Task Force, a coalition of Missoula City County Health Department.
When I stopped showing up, Jim showed up at my door. He took me to the hospital in town to get me help. That's the day Jim saved my life.
Everyone has a role in preventing suicide. Know the signs.
Isolation, withdrawal, talking about suicide, sleeplessness.
If you or someone you know is in crisis, call 800-273-TALK or text MT to 741-741. When it comes to suicide, the only wrong thing to say is to say nothing at all. Sponsored by DPHHS and aired by the NBA.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to borgenproject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
From well-loved characters like Charlie Brown and the Gruffalo to a wizard kitten and robots saving whales, the Kidomatic Film Festival will feature family-friendly films to inspire kids of all ages, November 14th through the 17th. Hosted by the Roxy Theater and Global and Cultural Affairs of Arts Missoula, this festival includes 4 days of fun activities, imaginative presentations, and over 25 short and featured-length films, screening November 14th through the 17th at the Roxy. To learn more about the Kidomatic Film Festival, go to kidomatic.org.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tootell and Coulter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. The Cats and the Grizz both come away winners. The Missoula Osprey are now the Missoula Paddleheads. It is Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio and across the state on SWX Montana Television. Great to be with you on this Monday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. Thanks for spending some time with us on your televisions, on your radios, on your internet devices. We appreciate it. We are happy to be with you. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. sports.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web as well if you so choose. 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen live via the stream on the Listen Live tab. Stream brought to us by Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. And if you'd like to pick up your phone and call us, well, feel free to do that as well. 329-1899, the phone number, 329-1899, that phone number. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. We start, as we do, the first hour of every week around here. Usually that's on a Monday. The Montana Football Hour, presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula, the University of Montana, Montana State, both wins over the course of the weekend. What did we learn? What did we not learn in both of the victories? A dominant performance, as dominant a first half as you could possibly have, 42-0 at halftime for Montana State. They come away with a 42-7 win, and the Grizzlies down 3.5. Put a statement in the second half, 38-23. They come away with a W as they return to Missoula this week for a big rivalry game against Idaho. The Cats on the road at Northern Colorado. So we'll go through that in the first hour. At the top of the hour, 5 o'clock, very happy to have a couple of guys in here who have been creating the news of the day. Peter Davis, the owner, and Matt Ellis, the GM of the Missoula Osprey, who are now the Missoula Paddleheads, the new team name, team logo revealed today. So we will talk with them about this. We understand the expectation of the reaction around the community, around the state to this has been largely not great. It has been a little bit good. I tell you, I went into this with a great deal of pessimism myself today, and I came out with a little less pessimism than I thought that I would have, quite frankly. I thought that the logos in particular, the visual element of this is really, really well done. But I understand that most people are, first of all, when the announcement came that they were going to change names away from the Osprey, that was met with a great deal of negativity. And I think 6 months of creating a belief of already we're going to not like whatever this is because it's not the Osprey is being expressed today. But they're going to be in here talking to us about this and why they are excited about the new name and the new logos and all the things that they've created for this. And it has been a tremendous amount of work to get that thing off the ground. So we will look forward to having them in here and helping them talk us through kind of the process here of getting to the Missoula Paddleheads, which we'll get to. And we also we were going to talk in the next hour also, of course, about the first round of high school football playoffs around the state. And as Coulter predicted, most of the AA stuff went pretty chalky, so we'll take a look at where we're at there and what was now what will be the second round of the playoffs. But really, if you take all preceding years, this really looks like what was the old first round of the playoffs at the AA level. We'll also get you on the Class A and B fronts as well. So there you go. That is what we are looking at. Well, let's jump right into it. It is the Montana Football Hour right now. It is presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. And Coulter, welcome in. You've been over in Bozeman for the weekend, took in a barn burner in Bobcat Stadium on Saturday as Montana State housed the Southern Utah Thunderbirds 42-7. You just got back in right now. So first of all, hi, man.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Been, missing out on some Coulter all weekend, all day. But let's start, Coulter, with the game that was certainly more interesting from a little bit of a back and forth standpoint, at least between the Grizzlies and Portland State. Montana wins 38-23. They outscore Portland State 24-6 in the second half. This has been the calling card this year, a very noticeable change from last year, where Montana has been really dominant in the second half of games in the main throughout the course of this season. But they were down early. They give up 17 points to Portland State in the second quarter of that game, end up going down 17-14. Let's start with just some sound, shall we, from this from the press conference earlier today. Bobby Hauck just giving his general outlook and his general thoughts about this football game and about his quarterback situation, giving a little bit of an update on Dalton Sneed. We'll get that loaded up for you here in a moment. We'll get that out to you. But Coulter, when you looked at this game, you saw kind of how this thing played out. Portland State's a pretty good team. I mean, they have some talent as well. All right, let's jump into the sound. We'll do that, and then we'll get to the game itself. Here you go, Bobby Hauck.
In regard to the Portland State game, it was a great job by our guys. I thought it was a great team effort, and physically we got after them, and I thought that maybe at times during that game we could have gotten away from them a little bit more, but that's not important. The important thing is to get one more point than they have, and we did it. We had a few too many self-inflicted wounds to make that happen, but our guys hung in there. We had some guys trying to do more than their 1/11th, and that didn't work out very well for us the first half, and then we got after them. So pleased to get a nice win. It's fun to see Grizz Nation there. 3/4 of that crowd was wearing maroon or more, which was fun. So good team win, great mental toughness when things weren't going well for us, and right now we're kind of on a roll, and we'd like to keep it going. In terms of Snead, Dalton wanted to play last weekend. He went out warmed up. We didn't think it was in his best interest and didn't think he was ready, so we didn't let him play. We'll see this week how it goes.
So there you go. Bobby Howe kind of giving his overall review. Thought it was interesting that he kind of called his team out a little bit there in the first half, said some guys were trying to do more than what they were supposed to do, and that's why we were there, but also felt like this is a game that we could have and maybe even should have handled even easier than they ended up doing that. Okay, but 38-23 at the end of the day was a convincing win, and they got after Davis Alexander, the Portland State quarterback. I mean, I think everybody has watched this game and paid attention to it. The big hit down the stretch from Dante Olson on Davis Alexander, but that was just one of a number. And I'll tell you what. My hat's off to that kid who just kept getting up off the mat every single time, because Montana got after him and just in general in a way that I don't know if I've seen yet this season out of this group. They certainly keyed in on that. And also offensively, they had the game plan dialed in. We'll hear from a little bit more on this, but Cam Humphrey, an absolutely, sterling day in Hillsboro, Oregon, as well as Samori Torre, 7 for 140 and 3 for the homecoming for Samori Torre. I mean, tough to do better than that. And again, Cam Humphrey, 21 of 28 for 335, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, you just couldn't be more efficient. A 75% completion percentage, and on 21 completions, you go for 335. Those are impressive numbers all the way around. And that flex defense, it was outdone by the Montana offense and their coaching staff Saturday.
Everybody always asks Montana about the adjustments. Why are you guys so much better in the second half? What do you change? And I think the answer to that question is nothing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why they've been so good. They are just relentless in the way that they come after people. The 111th is a cliche, but it's so important for what Montana does on defense. And they have such tremendous individual talent, especially in the ability – the open field tackling abilities of Dante Olson and Robbie Houck let Montana run the scheme that they run. And if you do have somebody trying to do too much, though, or trying to do something different than what their responsibility is, that's where you can find holes in the scheme, because it is organized chaos.
Yeah.
But when they stick with it and they play with their hair on fire, they light people up, and they lit Portland State up. I wish that quarterback hits and quarterback hurries were a more accurately kept stat.
Yeah.
Jace Lewis got credited for 1 quarterback hit and 3 sacks. He had he seriously had 10 or 12 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
Every time he came on pressure, you could tell they found something, a weakness. The blitzing up the middle they were just killing him. The zero gap blitz that they were using Jace Lewis on, they were just killing Portland State with, which is a testament to the Grizz for both their effort and execution, because Portland State's good up front. I mean, their interior offensive linemen in the middle they got 2 seniors and a junior who are all multiple year starters. So, they're supposed to be good. And they also rendered Portland State's rush game irrelevant. I mean, Portland State ran for, 43 yards, 1.5 yards per carry. So, they did whatever they wanted in terms of dictating. And Davis Alexander's a good player. He's a good quarterback.
Yes, he is.
But when you're a run-first team like Portland State and they force you into throwing the ball like that, then they can just absolutely tee off. That's what I saw. And then on the other side, Montana never let Portland State's flex defense get that step ahead that they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they just put those corners on an island, and just shredded them. They just went right after them.
The physicality of this game and the wide receiver certainly stood out. Here's some more from Bobby Houck on both of those things.
Obviously, you always want to play physical, but it seemed like this game in particular, your defense got after them, especially the quarterback, quite a bit. Did you notice a sort of an elevated level of physicality from this group on Saturday?
Well, I mean, it was a physical game by us. But I think we have a physical football team, so I don't think there was anything out of the ordinary. It's kind of what I think I'm seeing every day, and certainly every Saturday. So I think we play a physical brand of football, and we did on Saturday.
When you were preparing for that defense, did you think that Samari and or Sammy might have the type of days that they had, or is that something that just developed as the game went on?
Well, some of that depends on how they decide to play you. But if if it played out that they were going to stay with their base stuff, then yes, absolutely.
Kind of an interesting comment right there. Like Bobby Hauck, the flex is flexible, okay? But there is some certain themes that run to it in its base formation and some principles that you run and what they do. And if they chose to stay with that, then that is exploitable by this offense, and that is exactly what they did. And, I mean, Samari Torre, what, a 42-yard touchdown, a 46-yard touchdown. He also had a short little 6-yarder in there, but was as good as it could be. And then, obviously, Sammy Akem getting loose on the one big 76-yarder. It's just chunk play, big play stuff where if you get confused by it, you can turn the ball over, you can end up behind the sticks, and you can be in trouble. If you know what's coming or you can find where the places are vacated, as we talked about last week, it is susceptible to big plays, and Montana got several massive plays. And if you're breaking off between 40 and 70-yard touchdowns multiple times in a game, I mean, it doesn't take Vince Lombardi in here to tell you that you're probably in a good situation to win the football game.
What Hauck said there too is so true. You got to see how they're going to play you. The second touchdown to Samari Torre, his second of 3 touchdowns, and then the long one to Sammy Akem. Mm-hmm. There was no read. There was no nothing. It was snap the ball to Cam Humphrey. Cam Humphrey doesn't look at anybody, doesn't make any read, doesn't look off any safety, just chucks the ball as far as he can. Touchdown. Both times. Which to me, Portland State was tipping their hand pre-snap on what they were doing. And if they saw press man coverage on the outside, I dare you to guard me.
Right.
Boom. Go. Throw it. Run. Catch it. Gone. And Montana got back to when they were at their absolute peak of that hot streak before Dalton Sneed got hurt. They were at their best when one, they were dictating the tempo, and two, they were just out-athleting people on both sides of the ball. And that's exactly what I saw on Saturday. Just give the ball to your dudes and say, our dudes are better than your dudes. Stop us. Dare you. And that's exactly what they did. And I thought it was a cool moment for Samari Torre, too. I mean, Torre is from Portland. There was a narrative going in the game that he didn't get recruited by Portland State. When he was getting recruited, I remember him getting recruited by Portland State. So maybe that's just something that he misremembered or whatever. But regardless,
certainly that he didn't get recruited by Oregon was part of when the Grizz went to play Eugene.
No doubt.
And so that was...
Regardless, Samari Torre played like he did not get recruited by Portland State, and he played like he wanted to show off in front of his family and friends that were there. There's lots of family and friends for everybody from the Grizz there. I mean, that was Portland State's biggest crowd of the year, and it was by far all Grizz fans. I mean, I had a buddy that was in the stands who lives out in Portland, and he's a Grizz alum, and he was sending me pictures. He said, man, there's no Portland State people here. Yeah. He said, this is all Grizz people.
I think it was 6,200.
About 6,180 was the official.
And Bobby Hauck's estimate today was 75% or more in maroon and silver. And that's not overly surprising. And, hey, how about some sunshine? Must be nice to go to Portland, Oregon in November and be bathed in sun. Speaking of Samari Torre, he did have the big day. It was a homecoming for him. Here he is.
No, like Coach said, we're all very confident in Cam, and him going out there and performing like that was no surprise to anyone on the inside because we all know how hard Cam works, and every year he's been preparing like he's going to be the starter, whether he starts or not. So Saturday was just him showing all the work he's put in throughout the season.
Was it fun for you to have, obviously, the day you had, but doing it in Portland and your hometown, home area to do it there?
Yeah, of course. Anywhere we can get a win is going to be good. But, yeah, I guess it was it was fun to show out in front of my family and friends, yes.
Well, he certainly did show out. There's no doubt about that. By the way, the opening question, obviously, about Cam Humphrey and adjusting to play with the backup quarterback, how much was there? And the answer is, well, not very much. You just go out there, you trust in what he's doing, trust in what you're doing, and go play ball. Cam, it's two different games, okay, from last week to this past Saturday for Cam Humphrey. Two different defenses that he's facing, And this one created a scenario in which he was able to be more successful. Remember, though, this same defense completely flustered Dalton Snead. He probably had his worst game as a Grizz against this very Portland State team and this flex defense last year. So I put a lot of this on the coaches in terms of their better being prepared for what they were going to see on the field and dealing with it, and getting their quarterback ready to go. But I also felt it just looked to me like Cam Humphrey was just far more comfortable in this game. Like he was prepared to go back there and put the ball where he needed to, and just having that game experience, man. You just know what you're going out there, what it's like to be out there on a Saturday afternoon. And I think that these opportunities, especially when they come into victories for Montana, is huge for the Montana Grizzlies next year if Cam Humphrey turns out to be, the starter for his senior season, which, is the presumptive progression of that. Now, of course, anything can happen, but I think that's good for Montana then to get 2 wins and get your guy out there ready to go. Bobby Hauck, obviously, again, you heard him say it, they didn't feel that Dalton Snead was ready to go. Snead was out there, fully dressed out, warmed up with the team, and not even the guys calling the game knew who was going to actually walk out there under center at the time that Montana took their first offensive possession. So, playing your cards close to the vest, you continue to be very vague about this stuff. That's going to be par for the course. And you know when you're going to find out if Dalton Snead's ready to go? At 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon until he's out there, and that's when you're going to find out the truth about Dalton Snead's availability or not. But in the meantime, Cam Humphrey, not just statistically, but eye test as well, I thought was very comfortable, looked really good to me.
Montana also got back to being, I guess what I'm getting at, they proved that they could be ultra aggressive with Cam Humphrey in the game. I thought that Montana was more conservative on both sides of the ball. I thought their most conservative game of the season was against Eastern Washington on both sides of the football. And I think a little bit of it was scheme. Eastern Washington was really dead set on not letting Montana's receivers get loose. But then Montana answered, and for the first time in a long time, ran the ball down somebody's throat. And on the other side, I think that Montana was a little bit more conservative to try to remain in that middle lane with Cam Humphrey on offense, but also because Eric Berrier can just light you up so much if he gets out on the edge and if you have busted coverage or you're out of your gap or you got a bad blitz. So I think a lot of it was a combination of a lot of different things, but I also thought it was just a combination of the coaches having a lot of confidence in Cam Humphrey to operate too. As a preview, honestly, of next year for Grizz fans, because I mean, there's no Gabe Sulcer again. His status remains unknown. But besides that, Dalton Snead, Jerry Lou McGee, Colin Bingham, those are the 3 guys you're going to lose. But you got pretty good replacements in Sulcer and Mitch Roberts, in Bryson Deming and Matt Rensvold. And now I think that people can have confidence they got a pretty darn good replacement in Cam Humphrey as well for Dalton Snead.
No doubt. I mean, it was impressive. The one other thing I wanted to touch on, huge play by Sammy Akem. The celebration got the better of him. He goes out there, he's jumping around, and I honestly was like, oh no, because we've seen this before of guys that have gone down. Delaney 2 years ago, jumping up to, give his buddy a high five or whatever, the same thing, and he tears his ACL, it's it. Career over. Sammy Akem was back in that football game after he tweaked his knee or thigh or whatever it was. Which is obviously good news for Montana fans, but be careful out there when you're celebrating, I guess is the thing. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It's the Montana Football Hour. It's presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Montana State, they got back in a big way, a 42-7 victory over Southern Utah. We'll take a look at this game. We will hear from Jeff Choate, the head coach of the Bobcats, and discuss with Coulter what he saw in person on Saturday afternoon in Bozeman. Hey, the Silver Slipper, it's all about great food, tasty beverages, and their urge to have a good time. Whether you're looking for an affordable family meal or a late-night game of poker, the Silver Slipper has what you are looking for. Right now, Silver Slipper is your football headquarters. They have a free shuttle to every Grizz home game, 56 televisions in the bar to watch on, drink specials every day, a full liquor store, Tarantino's Pizzeria, and the friendliest staff in town. Silver Slipper has all you need to watch all of your favorite games. Visit online, thesilverslipperlounge.com for more info. Stop by today. See why the Silver Slipper is one of Montana's best-kept secrets across the street from Super Walmart on Brooks.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment and brakes and shocks and wheels and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer all that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more than tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up.
Joining your friends for a little get-together? Stop by your local Town Pump. Pick up a 12-pack of Bud, Miller, and Coors cans, 2 for $20, mix and match. While you're there, you may as well grab a bag of Ruffles Double XL chips, 2 for $6. Need it fast? Stop by Town Pump. There's one right down the road from you.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Help protect our community from prescription drug misuse, abuse, and overdose on National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. This Saturday, you can turn in your unused or expired medications at the Grizz game. Just look for the DEA booth at the parking lot near the entrance of the stadium. If you can't make it to the game, go to MissoulaCounty.us for a list of Dropbox locations in Missoula. This event is brought to you by Curry Health Center, Save Kids Missoula at Foundation for Community Health, and the Prescription Drug Task Force, a coalition of Missoula City County Health Department.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to borgenproject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The collision course continues as Montana and Montana State remained in the hunt for the Big Sky Conference regular season title with crucial wins on Saturday. The Grizzlies went on the road and posted a convincing 38-23 win at Portland State, while Montana State scored 42 first-half points in a 42-7 rout of Southern Utah and Bozeman.
Portland State scored 10 points in the final 2 minutes of the first half, take a 17-14 lead into the break. But Samari Toure took over, putting on a show to remember in his hometown. In front of 6,191 fans, mostly clad in maroon and silver to support Montana, Toure caught his second and third touchdown passes of the game to vault the visiting Grizzlies into the lead midway through the third quarter. Part of a career day for junior quarterback Cam Humphrey, who threw for 335 yards and 4 touchdowns as Montana won the second half 24-6 to move to 4-1 in league play, 7-2 overall.
Montana State snapped its 2-game losing streak with an offensive explosion previously unseen this season. The Bobcats piled up 21 points in the first 10 minutes of the game and led by 3 touchdowns before Southern Utah had even run 10 plays. The onslaught continued as the Bobcats turned turnovers into points in the second quarter to take a 42-0 halftime lead. They're now 3-2 in the league, 6-3 overall. The Grizzlies are number 6 in the nation, MSU number 12.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
What have we learned? A lot? A little? Let's discuss. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It is the Montana Football Hour, presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Celia, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. Top of the hour, owner and general manager of the Missoula Paddleheads going to be in here talking about the new name and the new logos and the entire switchover from the Osprey to the Paddleheads. And so stick around for that. That's been a major piece of news and interest to folks around the community, around Western Montana, and baseball fans in general across the state. So we will hear from the people themselves here today. Also want to remind everybody, we are giving away tickets to the Montana-Idaho football game, the battle for the Little Brown Stein. We're going to do it on the social medias at 1029 ESPN on Twitter and on Instagram. We'll tell you how you can win throughout the course of the week, but you go follow along there and you will be apprised of it as it happens. So I want to make sure that you get that. And it is the week of the giveaway of the keg and kegerator. A kegerator from Fred's Appliance and a keg from our friends at Great Burn Brewing. We're giving it away. Been doing the word of the day for a couple weeks. Friday, we're giving this thing away. You're going to get another opportunity today to register, so make sure you stick around and get the word of the day and text that in to 200-8184 when we give it to you. Coulter, you are in Bozeman. This was over early in Bobcat Stadium on Saturday. As you said, 21-0 in the first 10 minutes of the game, and a wide receiver pass back to the quarterback to Tucker Rovig with under a minute left in the first half sealed up the first half. 42 points that Montana State put on the board against Southern Utah, and they kind of shut it down in the second half. Played obviously a lot of backups, wanted to make sure that some guys stayed healthy, and got a 42-7 win. Let's just hear from Jeff Choate initially on the win over Southern Utah.
Obviously tip of the hat to Kane and our defensive staff. Put together a great plan. Got to the quarterback at the end of the first half there. That obviously changes the game tremendously when you're playing your second-string quarterback and eventually your third-string quarterback. I thought that Southern Utah showed a lot of fight in the second half defensively, and that was an interesting way to start the game. I didn't really see us, having that kind of an outpouring of scoring in the first half, and certainly created some momentum for ourselves with some takeaways. I thought our defense, regardless of the situation, really until kind of the end of the game, when we had some young guys in, really stood tall, and so I was very proud of them. So
there you go. Kind of a general overview. Obviously, the defense. The 7 points came, late in this football game. As
it was
Coach
against the fourth string
mentioned.
Defense. It was against guys that I've never seen play in games.
So that was that. There's two sides to this thing, or there's two parts to this. Montana State has been bad offensively in their last two games that they've played. Okay, they needed a game to come out, score some points, feel better about themselves. They did that and more. Even Coach Choate said, I didn't really expect that we would come out and do what we actually did offensively.
Well, they were up 21-0 when Southern Utah had run 7 plays.
Right.
7. Southern Utah went 3 and out. Montana State scored. They traded punts.
Yeah.
And then Montana State scored. Southern Utah turned the ball over on the second play. Montana State scored again. Southern Utah turned it over on the second play. Montana State scored again. So, you're up 21-0. The other team has run 7 offensive plays. At that point, we were already a downtrodden team that's on the road that is missing so many of your best players, and you're playing against a team that's trying to get itself right, and that team is just pulling out every stop to make sure they get right. The game was truly over by the end of the first quarter, but when Montana State punched in their 4th touchdown on the first drive of the second quarter, then it was really, really over. They at that moment when they went up 21-0 2 minutes into the second quarter, they shut down Travis Johnson. He was out for the rest of the game. They shut down Logan Jones.
28-0.
28-0. Yeah. And they took out a lot of their veteran. Bryce Sturck hardly had to play. Derek Marks hardly had to play.
Right.
And I don't know. This entire game, to me, in terms of analysis, is a two-part story. It's a double-edged sword. Because on one hand, Montana State played with renewed enthusiasm and vigor. Southern Utah sucks. Southern Utah is the worst team I've seen in the Big Sky Conference in a long time. They have no dudes. All the dudes that they're supposed to have are out.
We talked to Brandon Fisher last week, the defensive coordinator, former Montana linebacker, who's there now, and he was very frank. He's like, look, we're missing 3 starting linebackers, our starting safety, and
best corner.
And even, by the way, now he didn't say this, I'm saying this, even if those guys are available, they're still not in the top half of defenses. But then when you take away those guys, I mean, this was a almost unwatchable game just because it's so obvious how bad Southern Utah is and how much better Montana State is than they are. Montana State did exactly what they needed to do. But it's hard to say. I said last week, Coulter, we're not going to know anything about Montana State until at most the UC Davis game 2 weeks from now, because they got Southern Utah and Northern Colorado, and like on one hand for Montana State, yes, you did what you absolutely had to do, and they good for you, like you did it. But it doesn't really matter. This is an awful team that you should beat 42-7.
Montana State's defensive line played with a higher motor and better effort than they have all year. They dominated. They have been really good, but they dominated the level we expected them to dominate at. Yeah. Bryce Dirk, 2 tackles for loss before he takes a seat. Troy Anderson, 3 tackles for loss. Lamondre Williams, 3 tackles for loss. Zach Larson is Southern Utah's best player, far and away. Their center. He's a 2-time first-team All-American. Both of his older brothers play in the NFL. Zach Larson's going to play in the NFL too. Chase Benson destroyed him. It was Chase Benson's best game. If you were to compare like the one-on-one matchup, Chase Benson took the number 1 center in the Big Sky Conference. He's a first-team All-American. He is presumably the best center in the country, and Chase Benson annihilated him. Mm-hmm. All that said, though, on the other side, Southern Utah starting 4 freshmen on their offensive line around Zach Larson. Southern Utah had no momentum. And so I guess, to me, the number one piece of analysis I can bring out of this, I guess it's twofold. First of all, you can only play the team that's on your schedule, and Southern Utah's bad, but you destroyed them. And you destroyed them to the fact that it was so efficient that you got to take a lot of guys out of the game. And that's what Montana State needed. They didn't need Isaiah Fonse. They didn't need Logan Jones. Derek Marks has played 1 million snaps. He doesn't come out of the game. So to get him some extra rest, that's a good thing. So they took care of business when they needed to. They needed to get right. But on the other hand, I think it was just another reflective example for Montana State. They need to look in the mirror and ask themselves why. Why do we play better either when we're playing a team we know we're going to beat or when our backs are against the wall? Why can't they play like their backs are against the wall and with that level of enthusiasm and dominant effort against everybody?
Right.
And the thing is, they can, because they've done it against the Grizz 3 years in a row. So what's this whole, like, we're going to crawl in a hole and, like, let the self-fulfilling prophecy of how tough the trip to Grand Forks, North Dakota is going to be, like, what is that? Why are you prophesizing the fact that you're going to not play well against Western Illinois and then go not play well against a terrible team? That's stupid. Why are you doing that? If they could just figure out a way to have the confidence to channel all the elements of what we saw on Saturday, aside from the opponent, the creativity on offense, the confidence that Tucker Rovick played with, the effort that the defense at all 3 levels played with. Figure out a way to channel it. And who's to say that they maybe can't? That's the other interesting factor of this Montana State team, is that they have played with that enthusiasm in the month of November. It just always takes them playing not good in the month of October to get to this point.
I mean, when they put it all together, they are as dangerous as anybody.
Because they have so many dudes, man.
They do.
We've almost forgot about Lamondre Williams, and then he goes out and has a pick, a forced fumble, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack on Saturday in half of football. You know, we almost overlook him, and he's a dude. I mean, they have so much talent. It's weird that I guess it's not weird. They are the team that puts on full display more than any other team in the league how much of football is mental.
They you mentioned the creativity on offense. Let's hear Jeff Choate talk about that very thing.
Yeah, I think that was part of the idea. I mean, I think there's still obviously some things that we can improve upon and getting into some better plays. And, we got very conservative in the second half by design, trying to get out of there. We had some guys that got nicked up a little bit and wanted to make sure that we didn't have any further injuries. But, I thought that playing aggressive, playing to win, calling the game to put the pressure on the defense, I thought he did a nice job of that. I think our communication, especially in the first half on some sudden change situations, was much better with him on the field as well.
Why did you want to maybe mix up some of the personnel, that was getting involved offensively?
Well, I think it's kind of that time of the year where we've got some guys with some injuries. Travis wasn't 100% healthy coming into this game, and that dictated having Jaden Smith up at the slot receiver spot. We've had kind of, Willie goes down, then Coy went down for a couple weeks, and then we had, even Mark Estes, who played a significant role last week, but he's been kind of nursing a hamstring, and so that created an opportunity for Tyrone Marshall in the slot, and it was nice to see the tight ends get a touchdown catch. It's been a while since we've done that, so that was awesome.
So there you go. Jeff Choate talking about the creativity on offense. And they needed to score points. They had to figure out how they're going to do it. And they kind of pulled out all the stops to do it. And they did what they needed to do. They also put a lot of stuff on tape in this football game, Coulter, that whether they needed to or not, I guess is kind of an open conversation. Like you said.
I don't know what they've been saving it for. I mean, they ran like 11 or 12 plays that I've never seen them run.
Right. And but they also didn't need them. That said, they did get out of that hugely. The thing you said was just the ability to get guys out and just sit down. Hey, take a half, take 3/4 of football off. It's a live practice that you ran for 15-20 minutes, and load up and go down to Greeley next week. Going up 21-0 though, it does change the complexion of a game when all of a sudden you realize, we are firmly in control, and that ain't going to change. Here's Jeff Choate talking about how that changed the game for him.
Changed the game clearly, and made things a little less consequential perhaps in the second half, allowed us to be a little bit more conservative, rest some guys, and so that was very refreshing. I think one of the things we talked about coming out of this game was that we wanted to be the most excited team to play when we took the field on Saturday, and I think our energy was very good from the jump, and so that definitely, that momentum carried through, and we made some plays.
They certainly did. They made plays, and again, I just sit here and I say, okay, they played well. They played really well in this football game. They also played an awful team. On to Northern Colorado, where something like this should happen. Northern Colorado, probably better than Southern Utah. They certainly have, a better quarterback, and they, whatever. But they're not a good football team. Northern Colorado, they're not good. And so I'm not saying it's going to be 42 points in the first half, but this is a game that Montana State should dominate. They should win going away against the Northern Colorado Bears on Saturday as well. And if they do, we're going to have this exact same conversation a week from today on the Montana Football Hour, where we say, okay, but now what are you really when you go to UC Davis and you play a good team on the road? And then obviously it's the Grizz game after that. So, I don't know. I don't have analysis for this. This game doesn't mean anything to me. It's what they had to do, and they did it. It's just a brute fact, but it's not. There isn't stuff to take away from this other than the possibility of getting more healthy, of getting healthier than you maybe otherwise had been if it had been a close game. So that is the main takeaway of this for me.
Well, I'm just trying to get back to getting hot. I mean, if you can be hot going to UC Davis, if you have revitalized confidence, because I think this team lost their confidence a little bit coming out of Sac State, and I think they dwelled on it instead of fixing it during the bye, and then they looked flat and terrible against North Dakota. Mm-hmm. If they could get back to the swagger that they were playing with, like for example, when they just ran the ball down Northern Arizona's throat to come back from a huge deficit. I mean, the thing is, this team has been all over the place. They are a very volatile team, and you just have to wonder how much of that is just attitude reflects leadership. I mean, there's a lot of volatility within the scope of their program, and the thing you could say about Saturday is there was not a lot of volatility. It was just a straight butt whipping, and I think that's, regardless of who you play. I mean, Idaho State's obviously terrible. Idaho State lost again this last week to Northern Colorado. But Idaho State has some players, and Southern Utah has way less players than Idaho State, and Southern Utah scored 59 points on Idaho State. I know it's not transitive properties and whatever, but the fact of the matter is Southern Utah was coming off their best game in 2 years, and Montana State straight flattened them and let them do nothing. They didn't even breathe. I mean, it was the most boring game I've ever watched in my career in the second half. I mean, I was straight up trying to stay awake, chugging coffee, because there was nothing to do. All I was observing was the players from Montana State that hadn't ever gotten into games, and just marking down, oh man, this is this guy's first playing time, not in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. At least there
was coffee, that's nice.
No doubt.
It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It is the Montana Football Hour. Take a quick break, come back, and we will overlay these two teams, the quarterback situation in Montana. We will look at a little bit further. What do we expect from them from that spot going forward? And is a change? It's Do you slow play it in any way? It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, the Montana Football Hour, presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. Right now, you get 0% for 72 months on the 2019 Ford F-150 at Lithia Ford. The Ford F-150 makes tough tasks look easy, whether it's working on the job or heading out on a weekend of recreation. Also, check out the brand new Ranger, tested under more extreme conditions than you would likely ever encounter. Set a date for your next adventure. Your Ranger is ready to get you there. Lithia Ford, across from Super Walmart on Brooks. They have a huge inventory of new and used cars and trucks. Visit LithiaFordMissoula.com for more information. Search new and used inventory there with financing specials and get yourself into a Lithia Ford today. Lithia Ford is an official sponsor of the Montana Grizzlies and Tootell and Nuanez Montana Football Hour.
We combine quality ingredients with home-style recipes to create the Montana Club's fall comfort food menu. Savor our tender boneless beef short rib or caramelized brandy apple pork shank. Dig into our classic savory chicken pot pie or fall for our zesty skillet lasagna. Top things off with our creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode. Scratch-made comfort food that's as real as it gets. Served 11:30 to close at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from your favorite daily sports talk show, Tootell Nuanez. I'm here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom, last winter I got a sweet car starter. It's something I think everybody needs.
You know, Colter, I couldn't agree more, and my wife sure thinks so too. We've got a lot of sweet deals. We actually have it capable now where you can start it from your phone from anywhere you'd like. We have two-way remotes that'll confirm to you the vehicle started all the way down to our basic package starting at just $299 installed. Come on in and check us out.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
If you're looking for a charming neighborhood hideaway, come into Katie O'Keefe's. Located in the corner of the Stevens Center, Katie's has an inviting atmosphere with ample parking and a location that's easy to get to and hard not to love. With drink specials every night of the week, including Tequila Tuesdays and Whiskey Wednesdays, offering $3 premium cocktails. Katie O'Keefe's is the welcoming, warm hangout you've been looking for. Come in to Katie O'Keefe's, where the drinks are always cold and the people are always friendly.
Hey, it's Colter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call. 406-640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
From well-loved characters like Charlie Brown and the Gruffalo to a wizard kitten and robots saving whales, the Kid-O-Matic Film Festival will feature family-friendly films to inspire kids of all ages, November 14th through the 17th. Hosted by the Roxy Theater and Global and Cultural Affairs of Arts Missoula, this festival includes 4 days of fun activities, imaginative presentations, and over 25 short and feature-length films, screening November 14th through the 17th at the Roxy. To learn more about the Kid-O-Matic Film Festival, go to kidomatic.org.
Help protect our community from prescription drug misuse, abuse, and overdose on National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. This Saturday, you can turn in your unused or expired medications at the Grizz game. Just look for the DEA booth at the parking lot near the entrance of the stadium. If you can't make it to the game, go to MissoulaCounty.us for a list of Dropbox locations in Missoula. This event is brought to you by Curry Health Center, Safe Kids Missoula at Foundation for Community Health, and the Prescription Drug Task Force, a coalition of Missoula City County Health Department.
Tootell and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes. 1029ESPN.com.
Montana State cannot win throwing the ball 20 times or more in a game unless they're playing Southern Utah and probably Northern Colorado. Montana, they have to throw the ball 30 times a game. Actually, they don't. They didn't do it the other day. They wanted 55 rushes. I don't know. Montana's just kind of set up at the position. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It is the Montana Football Hour. It is presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. 15 minutes from now, talk with the owner, GM, president of the Missoula Paddleheads, the new name and marks logos released and revealed today for what was formerly the Missoula Osprey. So we'll talk to them about that process and going through it and what we thought, where we're at with the entire thing. So we'll look forward to that 15 minutes from now with those guys. We are broadcasting live as we do every day, also across the state on SWX Montana. Good to be with all of you. Coulter, the Grizzlies. Cam Humphrey again. I thought I thought he did have an objectively outstanding day. Huge day against Portland State. It was a defense that Bobby Hauck, as he alluded to in his press conference, if they were going to stay in what they were running, we knew the wide receivers were going to have a big day, and ergo, Cam Humphrey was going to have a big day. 21-28 for 335 and 4 touchdowns on the afternoon. Does this afford Montana the ability to slow play the return of Dalton Sneed? There's no question they want Dalton Sneed back. Dalton Sneed is the senior. He's been the captain, and he is an outstanding player. And he's better, if for no other reason than experience, than Cam Humphrey is at this point. But also,
and he's just better. I mean, it's not demeaning to Cam Humphrey. Cam Humphrey's really good. Dalton Sneed's one of the best players in the country.
Yes, he is. But also, I guess my question is, when you see what Cam Humphrey does on Saturday, and you see how the team has responded with him as a quarterback, does this allow you the ability to say, hey, Dalton Sneed, you're at 85%. We're going to wait another week for you to bring you back in? Or do you say, I've always said that the mentality of both Dalton Sneed and of Bobby Hauck is dictate that if he can go, he is going. If you read between the lines of what Bobby Hauck said, he said we didn't feel like it was, if he said smart to play him or that he was quite ready to go, so we held him out. But he was there, like he was available. If Cam Humphrey goes down, it's not clear to me that Dalton Sneed doesn't come in in a backup scenario. And so if that is the case, if you are dressed up and able to play, now maybe it's a ruse. Maybe there was no chance he was going to play, but let's put the pads on him, run him out there, and let Bruce Barnum try and figure it out, pregame what's going to happen. All I'm saying is, does this expand the time frame that you think that is available to Montana to return Dalton Sneed to the lineup?
We could do a really long segment about this.
Let's do a short one.
We touched on this last week. I can't remember what we were talking about. Oh, we were talking about with Carolyn. We were talking about Trent Williams from the Redskins having a tumor on his head, not diagnosed for 5 years. And I was going on a rant about how it's assumed that training staffs and doctors for in-house are all just flawless, and they're just not. And some even pro teams have awful training staffs, and it's why a lot of teams are really injury prone, and it's something that players are starting to learn more about. What I'm getting at is I think there's a lot of player empowerment and a lot of player where they're allowed to make the choice based on pain and stuff like that themselves. Montana's head trainer, J.C. Voida, is outstanding. He's excellent. He's been there for decades, and he's getting inducted into the National Trainers Hall of Fame. I mean, he's top notch, and every player would tell you they love him. They love JC. He's always done the right thing when it comes to that, and I think that's what it comes down to in this case, because I do think that Dalton Sneed's a wild Mustang. He's going to play if you want him. If he wants to play, if it's up to him, he's going to want to play.
Right,
and I think that's where you have to have the honest conversation. And Coach Hauck has said this without really saying it. I mean, he said we didn't think it was in his best interest, which means that JC and him had a real conversation saying, hey, the kid probably could play. It's probably not the best thing for him to play. I mean, there was the little back and forth when Jeff Choate was talking about Troy Anderson has the same injury as Dalton Sneed. Troy Anderson hasn't missed a game. And Bobby Hauck shot back and basically said, if our guys are not fit to play, we're not going to play them because that's just not the right thing to do. I think that's it's a revelation between not necessarily the quality of the training staffs at the two schools, but the communication and the empowerment that the players have. I think what it comes down to is that at Montana, what Coach Hauck is saying is that the training staff has the final word, which I think is the correct way to do it, because I think a lot of times if you give the kid the final word, if they're a hyper-competitive kid, they're going to choose to play, and a lot of times that's not the greatest thing for them in terms of their long-term health. So as far as slow play in the thing, I'm not sure. I think that Dalton Sneed will certainly be back in the lineup when the Montana training staff clears him to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that will be this week, but maybe he heals quickly. I'm not sure. But I think that last week was smoke and mirrors. I think they were just trying to play mind games. I didn't think there was any chance that he was going to play last week.
This is an interesting deal, though, because it is Idaho for the Grizzlies, and it's a rivalry game, and it is probably second only to Montana State in terms of teams that have their names circled on the schedule for the Grizzlies. And so does that, is any, if it is only, we all want to believe, right, that it's explicitly and only about the health of the kid, and is he good and is he able to go? But there are certainly games where, you want to get out there. Tua Tagovailoa right now is playing for Alabama, who has no idea what it feels like to be the number 2 team in the nation. Shocking that they are. And they're going up against number 1 LSU, and you know that he wants to be out there. Does that bend the rules or the timeline or whatever on him being out there because of who the opponent is? And I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm just saying it's worth noting. It ain't Southern Utah that Montana's playing on Saturday. It's the Idaho Vandals, and you know that they want to get every piece of Idaho that they possibly can with everybody that they possibly can. So, more on that as the week goes on. By the way, Bobby Hauck did mention earlier today in his press conference the nature of this rivalry a little bit and how it's sort of been a little weird to play teams, especially Eastern Washington, who half the guys on his team hadn't even seen on the field before 2 weeks ago when they played. And Idaho, obviously, they have seen once, but they're new to the league again. And how does that go? Because Bobby Hauck, Paul Petrino, they're well aware of the rivalry. They know what's going on there. But a lot of the kids on the field tried to get used to it last year. Now it's a new thing.
You mentioned Montana State not being able to beat anybody if they throw the ball more than 20 times except Southern Utah. But I do think this. I think that although Southern Utah, again, is not good, Tucker Rovig made 2 throws on Saturday that had almost nothing to do with the defense and almost everything to do with his actual operation at quarterback, and it was a huge stride. They ran basically like a combo route where the tight end runs an up-and-out seam up the hash, and Rovig checked off with his eyes underneath and then threw on a rope in between zone coverage, and it was a dart, and it was a 23-yard gain, and everybody in the press box kind of looked at each other like, well, why doesn't he always do that? That was a great throw. Where's that been? Because earlier in the game, he sailed his first pass 10 feet over the head, and then he threw a screen pass into the dirt, and it was like, oh, here we go again. Even against Southern Utah, Rovig's not going to be able to hack it. And then he made that throw, and then he was off and running. And
his bomb down the field.
The 47-yard touchdown, it looked like busted coverage, but he made the coverage busted because you could see, if you watch that play pre-snap, he stares down the safety the whole time and tricks him with his eyes. The safety breaks, and then the corner comes underneath, and boom, touchdown, 47 yards.
Smith in stride. It was a great throw.
It seems so simple, but when you've never done it before, then you're freaking out if you can do it. And now he actually has done it. And it doesn't matter if it's against a bad team. It's against a real team that's not yourself. And it's the first time he's ever done it in a game. Sometimes you got to just give credit where credit due, because he has been not good, and he was much better even. That's why you got to throw the stats out, right? He didn't throw for as many yards as he did against Sacramento State. He played way better. It was his best game of the year.
Here's the thing, is that the Tucker Rovig deal has never really been about his ability. Let me say the difference. It's
about his confidence.
He can throw a great ball, and he can throw a great ball in a game. He can throw a seed down the seam, split coverage, do all that stuff. I don't know enough about him in the position, all that, to talk about him looking off defenders, getting guys to go the wrong direction, moving the secondary around, and all that kind of stuff. But if you sit there and you watch him either in practice or even in a game from time to time, it's great. You go, oh yeah, of course he's the quarterback, and you should be throwing the football. And then you watch him put it into the toes of in a flat of a 5-yard bubble screen, and you go, what in the world is going on here? How is that possible?
And I think that part of this is maybe Jeff Choate making excuses, but part of it's also him protecting his guy. And like Choate said today, and Tucker Rovig is on, career start number 8 or 10. It's not like Case Cookus, who started 40 games. Like Jacob Knipp's been in college for 6 years. Right. Kevin Thompson's been in college for 6 years. Case Cookus has been in college for 6 years. Tucker Rovig's been playing quarterback at the college level for 2 games last year and 6 games this year. And, it is a little bit of a cop-out, but also at a high-profile program, you want the starter to be good right away. And I think that he's just starting way sooner than you probably would have liked. But it was a step in the right direction.
Hour number 1 in the books. It's the Montana Football Hour. It's presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. Up next, Peter Davis, Matt Ellis, 2 head guys over at the Missoula Paddleheads, formerly Missoula Osprey. The big reveal today. We'll talk to them about that, what's gone into the process, why they chose that name, these marks, and everything else. And, your feedback as well, potentially, 329-1899 if you'd like to. So they will be with us in studio right after this. Hey, at the Silver Slipper, it's all about great food, tasty beverages, and their urge to have a good time. Whether you're looking for an affordable family meal or a late-night game of poker, the Silver Slipper has what you're looking for. Right now, Silver Slipper is your football headquarters with a free shuttle to every home Grizz game, 56 televisions to watch sports on, drink specials every single day, a full liquor store, Tarantino's Pizzeria, and the friendliest staff in town. Silver Slipper has all you need to watch your favorite games. Visit thesilverslipperlounge.com online for more info and stop by today to see why the Silver Slipper is one of Montana's best-kept secrets across the street from Super Walmart on Brooks.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment and brakes and shocks and wheels and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer all that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more than tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to borgenproject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
From well-loved characters like Charlie Brown and the Gruffalo to a wizard kitten and robots saving whales, the Kid-O-Matic Film Festival will feature family-friendly films to inspire kids of all ages, November 14th through the 17th. Hosted by the Roxy Theater and Global and Cultural Affairs of Arts Missoula, this festival includes 4 days of fun activities, imaginative presentations, and over 25 short and feature-length films screening November 14th through the 17th at the Roxy. To learn more about the Kid-O-Matic Film Festival, go to kidomatic.org.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Here's some sports news for you. The collision course continues as Montana State remain in the hunt for Big Sky Conference regular season titles. The Grizzlies beat Portland State 38-23. Montana State scored 42 points in the first half en route to a 42-7 win. Colton, tell them about the Grizz game.
Portland State scored 10 points in the final 2 minutes of the first half to take a 17-14 lead into the break. But Samori Toure took over, putting on a show to remember in his hometown in front of 6,191 fans, clad mostly in maroon and silver, to support Montana. Toure caught his second and third touchdown passes of the game to vault the visiting Grizzlies into the lead midway through the third quarter. Sammy Kim caught a 76-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. That was all part of a career day for junior quarterback Cam Humphrey, who threw for 335 yards and 4 touchdowns as Montana won the second half 24-6. to move to 4-1 in league play, 7-2 overall.
Montana State snapped its 2-game losing streak with an offensive explosion. The Bobcats piled up 21 points in the first 10 minutes of the game and led by 3 touchdowns before Southern Utah had even run 10 plays. The onslaught continued as the Bobcats turned turnovers into points in the second quarter. They ended up with a 42-0 halftime lead. They are now 3-2 in the league and 6-3 overall.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
Hey, how's it going? Hour number 2, Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Check us out on YouTube. You can watch live or after the fact on YouTube if you'd like to. All these different places. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web as well, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen live via the Listen Live tab. Listen live. Thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you'd like to call, 329-1899 is the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line.
I miss Destiny's Child.
Okay.
I just thought Destiny's Child was a great girl group, and I just have never liked Beyonce nearly as much as I liked them.
You know what I've missed? Rage Against the Machine. And guess what?
Are we going to do that?
Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Should
March
we?
30th.
Should we?
100%. SWX programming. There will not be Tootell Nuanez the end of March.
It's too bad for a multitude of reasons that the Big Sky tournament's no longer in Reno. But that would be a great road trip if we could time it up right. Drive from Missoula to Reno for a week of the Big Sky tournament and then keep on driving.
Launch into Coachella.
No, just go to Las Cruces, New Mexico. So we already be halfway there.
Dude, how many pounds do you think I would lose in 5 consecutive Rage Against the Machine shows?
Well, I mean, you'd be dead by the third because you're a mosher.
That's the way to go.
It's going to be the most indicative sign of how old you are.
When
you're going to be trying to rage like it's 1993 and these kids are going to be sitting there trying to make their Instagram videos. They're going to be knocking fools over.
I'm going to break every phone I see. That's what I know for sure.
Seriously, I don't like evidence of myself, photo evidence of myself in any form or fashion. Yeah. But seriously, one of the things that makes me laugh the hardest is the videos. The videos that my roommate took from the hill at the Kettle House Amphitheater of us at Incubus. We had no idea.
You're unidentifiable, though.
No, you can't see me, but you just see in the pit this group of like 12 very stout men just going crazy, and it's pretty funny because I didn't realize that everybody else wasn't just raging like we were.
Peter Davis and Matt Ellis are on their way in, so we'll get to them when they get here. A couple things first, though. Let's do this. It's time for the word of the day. The word of the day is being done for the last 2 weeks, and this is the final week, to 200-8184. You text in the word of the day to 200-8184, and you will be in the running for a brand new kegerator from Fred's Appliance, supplied with a brand new keg from Great Burn Brewery. How great is that? I mean, that's as good as it gets. 200-8184 is the phone number. The word of the day today, apropos, paddlehead. Paddlehead.
It is one word too, by the way.
It is, and is it paddle heads? I think it's actually there's an S on there. So
yes,
if you include an S, that's fine. We will not. You will not be kicked out of the contest for the day if you have an S or if you don't. Either one will be acceptable. But Paddleheads, the word of the day to 200-8184. Coulter, let's do a prep extra segment here. It's brought to us by the Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. And it was week one of the high school football playoffs this past weekend. The AA level, it pretty much went chalk. Everybody that was supposed to win won and won big. The only game that was, even close to a one-score game was Kalispell Glacier beating Great Falls 33-24. Glacier went to Great Falls, got the win by 9 points over the Bison. So they move on, and they will play the number 1 seeded Butte Bulldogs. So Kalispell Glacier, the lowest seed to move on from a 5 seed. They play the team that had the bye in Butte because this whole thing gets reseeded, okay? The brackets, if you're looking at the brackets, you don't just move to the right. You move to the team that you're going to play according to your ranking. Bozeman High, who's the number 1 seed in the East, they beat Missoula Big Sky, the only team they had lost to on the season, interestingly enough. 27-3, the final of that game. And so Bozeman moves on. They will play Helena High. Billings Senior is going to play Missoula Sentinel. Missoula Sentinel had a very easy time with Skyview, and Billings Senior getting a win as well. So Seniors moving on to play the Sentinel Spartans. Senior beat Hellgate 41-13. So that was the final there, by the way. Sentinel, a 45-7 win over Billings Skyview in that football game. The lone remaining contest, AA, Billings West, Helena Capital.
The crossover, the fact that it was East versus West. Mm-hmm. Glacier's the only quote-unquote lower-seeded team that didn't just go chalk, that actually won. Mm-hmm. But the West had more teams with winning records than the East did this year, and Glacier actually had a better record than Great Falls High. So, under the previous format, the top 8 teams in AA make it, and that's exactly what we got.
That's what you got. It was interesting.
I want to talk to you about this for a second.
Yeah.
I get the whole, okay, it's high school sports. We want these kids to have a postseason experience. But to me, there's no postseason experience about this because it's not like basketball where you're going to a tournament. You're just getting on a bus to go play a higher-seeded team. To me, if you get to play your last game, say you get to play at home, the schedule falls that you get to play your last game at home, and you can beat a team that might be going to the playoffs, and you can impact the seeding. And if say you're this happened to us, my senior year, we were 7-2 going into the last game of the year. We had to go play Butte High on their senior night, and Butte High had won 2 games that year and 0 games the year before, and they whipped our butts. And we fell from the 2 seed to the 4 seed, and we had to have a different matchup in the playoffs. But there's no question that those guys were up because it was senior night in Butte, and they impacted the playoff race. To me, that's way cooler and way better of a quote-unquote experience than, you guys are – you guys made the state championship game a year ago, your Kalispell Flathead, and now, for the last game of the year, you don't get to play a inner-city game. You don't get to play a senior night game. You got to get on a bus and go to Billings. It seems like they missed the point.
So here's where I agree with everything you said. I have some insight for you, Coulter, because while you were over in Bozeman, you know what I was doing? Going to a 7-year-old's YMCA basketball game.
Hey!
My daughter playing in her first game. You know whose daughter was also playing in this basketball game, serendipitously? Dane Oliver, the head coach of the Sentinel Spartans football team, who was into the second round. And I asked him about this very thing. I was like, does this make sense? He said, here's the deal. And I hadn't thought about this. The reason they did it this way is because this year, as we know, there's 15 teams. Yep. Next year, there'll be 16 teams. Yep. It's right now, as of right now, in my understanding, just a 2-year deal. They've scheduled it out for this year and next year. The reason they did it is that there was a very live possibility that a team, because there was a bye week for people, for a lot of teams, like Hellgate didn't play the first week of the season. Right. Everybody had a bye at some point. There was a very real possibility that a team could end up not playing for 2 weeks in a row if they had a bye week on the last week of their season and then a bye in the first playoff week. And so you go 3 weeks without a game out of the regular season into the playoffs, and that would be a very awkward situation for a team to have been in. And that's also why they had to do it East versus West rather than just keep the 7 teams in the West or whatever it was and 8 teams in the East. They had to do the crossover to ensure that at most it would just be one team, in this case Butte, that would have 1 week off. So it was really a stopgap because of this awkward season. But then you have to do it for 2 years from a scheduling standpoint to get it out there that far. So we will see if this continues past 2020 to do the whole that everybody is doing it, because we'll of course have even numbers, 16 teams, 8 in the East, 8 in the West, for going forward when Gallatin opens next year. So I think that is an interesting scenario, and I appreciate the insight on that. Again, as he said to me, we would love a great solution. If you got one, send me an email, please.
Have 8 teams make the playoffs. It's a great solution. What do you mean? If you don't win enough games, it's over for you.
But
and guess
again,
what?
That might be the case now. This was kind of the reason that
all I got to say is that when you look back on your memories of Friday Night Lights, football's fun. But guess what? Football isn't fun, except for when you're playing in games.
Exactly.
And if you're just getting your butt kicked, it's not fun. And I guarantee you a lot of teams are like, man, do we really got to do this? I mean, how enthused are you, especially in Montana, where it's not like it's your last sporting event? Some of these kids, I mean, I guarantee you there's kids at some of these lower-seeded schools that are basketball players, track kids. Move on, let me be done so I can go start playing for basketball. I don't know. It seems tiresome.
In Class A, it's a 12-team playoff. 4 teams get a bye, and then they got 4 games, the winners of which all move on. And all of the lower seeds, a.k.a. the favorites to win, did win in Class A, including Frenchtown, a 34-7 win over Whitefish. They will play the number 1 seed out of the East, Miles City, in the next round. Billings Central will host Hamilton. Hamilton had the bye. Billings Central, a 45-13 win over Glendive. Havers, the 4 seed in the East, they beat Grass Range when at Fergus County, Lewiston. Essentially, and then they will play Dillon, who's the number 1 seed in the West, because of their 1-point win over Hamilton, by the way, in the regular season. And then Libby beat Butte Central 49-28. They are going to play Laurel. So there's the Class A setup.
You said that Hamilton's going to Billings Central. It's the other way around, right?
No, yes.
Central's got to come to Hamilton.
My mistake. Yes.
So a rematch
all the
of the
teams get home games.
Right.
Yes.
So a rematch of the state championship game.
Right. Great game next weekend, next Saturday at 1 in the afternoon down there at Hamilton High School.
We'll have plenty more on all of this high school football action. One thing that we got to note, this is not necessarily a prep extra, but this girl was introduced to us as part of our Student of the Week that we did, and now she's running at Montana State. It's worth noting Camilla Noe, who is an outstanding runner at Bozeman High, spent a semester at Portland, transferred back to Montana State. She won the Big Sky Cross Country individual title. That's the first time that anyone from the state of Montana has won that championship in 27 years.
Wow. Impressive. Well, good for her. There you go. That's our Prep Extra segment. It's brought to us by the Farmers State Bank online, farmersebank.com. Checking and savings accounts available, free internet banking. If you're a first-time banker, maybe you're a high school going into college, maybe you're a college kid, whatever it is, go to Farmers Bank. They got branches all over western Montana for you, and they can bank for you for free, secure, instant. It's all good. Find one that works for your family at Farmers State Bank. Quick break. Peter Davis and Matt Ellis, they are here. They run the Osprey that are now the Paddleheads. We'll talk to them about the new mark and the new logo, the new team name right after this.
Paddleheads.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Katie O'Keefe's has been a neighborhood favorite in the corner of the Stevens Center for years. But if you haven't been into Katie's lately, come on in and make sure to turn left. The downstairs bar is completely remodeled with one of the biggest, best spaces anywhere in Missoula to watch games, play games, and hang out with all your friends. Katie O'Keefe's is your horse racing simulcast headquarters in Missoula. Come into Katie's and turn left for cribbage, darts, pool, and much, much more. Katie O'Keefe's, where the cocktails are always cold and the people are always friendly.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
Ready, set, shop. Have you looked at the calendar? It's time. Forget those high-interest credit cards. Apply for a holiday loan from Farmer State Bank. Holiday loans feature low monthly payments that are easy to budget for. Upon approval, you'll have the cash you need for a holiday to remember. Whether it's shopping, travel, whatever, get the details and apply today at Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
The biggest season in sports is shifting into overdrive, and the Desperado Sports Tavern has the fuel you need to make it to the finish line. By now, you've heard that the Despo serves the best wings around, but did you know they have a full menu with burgers, nachos, chicken strips, sandwiches, cheese sticks, and even steaks? Fill your tank, then wash it down with an ice-cold beverage or two. Keep your head in the game with 32 HD TVs and room for the whole crew. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
From well-loved characters like Charlie Brown and the Gruffalo to a wizard kitten and robots saving whales, the Kid-O-Matic Film Festival will feature family-friendly films to inspire kids of all ages, November 14th through the 17th. Hosted by the Roxy Theater and Global and Cultural Affairs of Arts Missoula, this festival includes 4 days of fun activities, imaginative presentations, and over 25 short and feature-length films screening November 14th through the 17th at the Roxy. To learn more about the Kid-O-Matic Film Festival, go to kidomatic.org.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colter Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Here's some sports news for you. The collision course continues as Montana State remained in the hunt for the Big Sky Conference regular season title with crucial wins Saturday. The Grizzlies went on the road to post a 38-23 win at Portland State, while Montana State rolled 42-7 in a rout over Southern Utah.
Portland State scored 10 points in the final 2 minutes of the first half to take a 17-14 lead to the break, but Samari Toure took over, putting on a show to remember in his hometown. In front of 6,191 fans, mostly clad in maroon and silver to support Montana, Toure caught his second and third touchdown passes of the game to vault the visiting Grizzlies into the lead midway through the third quarter. Sammy Akem caught a 76-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter, part of a career day for junior quarterback Cam Humphrey, who threw for 335 yards and 4 touchdowns as Montana won the second half 24-6 to move to 4-1 in league play, 7-2 overall. And finally, Montana State snapped its 2-game losing streak with an offensive explosion previously unseen this season. Bobcats piled up 21 points in the first 10 minutes of the game and led by 3 touchdowns before Southern Utah had even ran 10 offensive plays. The onslaught continued as the Bobcats turned turnovers into points and took a 42-0 lead at halftime. Bobcats 3-2 in league, 6-3 overall.
Montana State also number 12 in the nation now. The Montana Grizzlies number 6.
Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. A woman done left and took all the reason I was working for. You better not try to stand in my way as I'm walking out the door.
It's not often
Take this job and shove it.
a Monday after a regular season football weekend in the Big Sky Conference can lose its perch in the news cycle, but such is the case today as the Missoula Pioneer League baseball team is now the Paddleheads, switching over from the Osprey, and we are happy to be joined in studio to talk about all of this with the owner of the Missoula Paddleheads, Peter Davis, and the vice president, who has been long-standing with the team here, Matt Ellis. Guys, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We know it was a huge day, one you've been working toward for a long time, and so to take time out and come down and be with us, we certainly appreciate it very much. How are you? Crazy day, right?
Great day. Just a great day.
You made my day by telling me you liked the logo. So, because I knew you were our toughest critic going in. So I'm excited, and I'm happy to be here to hear your reaction.
Well, I have a lot that I think about this, and you're right. I mean, I think, look, people, you guys know this better than any of us. People really had grown an affinity and have an affinity still for the Osprey, and it's obvious with the Osprey is in the dang stadium and the whole thing, and so this is not like. This is obvious enough. And so when the announcement came that, hey, we're going to change
logos, changed names. This was met with great disapproval broadly by people who were like, well, why are you going to do that to my team? So before we get into what it became, what was the impetus initially to do that? And knowing that you guys know what's going on. You know it's going to be met with criticism. And you said, okay, but we're going to do this anyway. What was that? What went into that decision?
Well, we started thinking smaller than changing everything. We talked about, maybe the logo changes a little bit. We upgraded the Osprey a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the more we got into this, the more like it was just tweaking. It really wasn't making a difference. The other thing I've noticed early on when I got to Missoula was I felt like the Osprey was like the best kept secret in Western Montana. So I said, well, if we're going to change the logo, what if we change a little bit more? Let's get a little bit bigger, and let's really do something that the town notices. Maybe then, if they hate us, they're still going to know we're here. Right. So let's do something big. And so we didn't start there. We started small, but we kind of grew over time to be, well, let's do everything. Let's really make it spectacular, which we think we have done.
Yes, no doubt. And Peter and Susan were very clear. This is the community's team. Let's make sure the community's involved in this, and we did that throughout the process. So we really feel like we kind of nailed it there. When you had made the decision originally to do this, you kind of crowdsourced suggestions from people, and they had all come across. So what this was, my understanding, by the way, Paddleheads was one of the suggestions. So that was in fact taken ultimately.
One of the 600.
One of the 600, and exactly. And somebody knew what a paddlehead was, and we looked it up and then figured out it was a moose. Oh, that's pretty cool.
When you're going through all of them, how do you get down to deciding, okay, here's maybe actually 5, 6, 7, 8 names that we can consider? Because 600, that's a lot of names.
Well, yes, there was a lot of great suggestions, and we had a short list that we really liked. But as Peter said earlier today, it's not an easy decision on how you pick a team name. I mean, there's a lot of factors a lot of boxes that have to be checked. I mean, trademarks, URLs, your Facebook, what your addresses are going to be, whether or not other teams are representing that same mascot. We really wanted this to be unique to Missoula and not an everyday mascot that are unique to 8 or 10 different communities. So the fact that you don't necessarily know what a paddlehead is not a bad thing. We think it's awesome because we're the only paddlehead out there, and that's special to us.
Speaking of not knowing, Bobby Houck was asked about this today in the press conference, obviously the head coach of the Grizzly football team. So let's play this sound for Bobby Houck, sort of the exchange that happened where he was asked about this, didn't know about this, was trying to figure out, and then on the spot reacting to it. So here you go, Bobby Houck in the press conference today about the new team name in Missoula.
Paddleheads. Yay, nay, maybe.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The new Missoula Osprey team name logo is the Paddleheads, the minor league team here.
Well, I know. I'm aware we have a minor league baseball team. What is a paddlehead?
It's a moose.
Oh heck, moose is bigger than a bird. You get it like that, right? Yeah.
It's a moose that floats the river, apparently.
They all float the river if it's deep enough. Otherwise, they walk across it. Moose are tough. I like them. I'll go watch the paddleheads as well as the Osprey.
There you go. So obvious. It's bigger. It's tougher. It's the better logo. That's the way it gets assessed for Bobby Houck. So when I heard paddleheads, again, my reaction was the same as a lot of people, which is, well, what is that? And I thought it was like people who are into kayaking or something like that, like they're paddleheads or gearheads or something like that. I mean, the paddle is obviously there, but was that part of that at all?
This was a mark that we, as you can see by our hats, is really representative of what Missoula is and what our lifestyle is. And the river is a major part of that, not only for the community, but for the ballpark being right next to it. So we liked the double entendre, if you will, of what paddleheads could be to people. It is a slang term for a moose, but the fact that it connects to the river and we're a huge paddling community, we just thought that was perfect.
When I heard the name, I was like, I don't know. When I saw the logos, though, I must say, I mean, you're right. I mean, this is, I wouldn't come on here and just make stuff up. The logos I think are great. I mean, I think that the moose and the work that went into the number of different styles that you have on it, I think the orange and green, the colors, I like all of that stuff. And clearly, like, a lot of work and time was spent to make this look really good, which I think is probably as, if not even more important than what the actual name of the team turns out to be. And I was completely impressed with this. Coulter, I mean, you already got your lid on.
Well, they already won me over because I have the largest head known to mankind, and this hat fits me. They brought the 7 7/8. You have any idea how hard it is to find a hat? These are like the 5 hats in the city of Missoula that will fit my head right here. These 5. No, but this is sweet, man. These are sweet logos. Honestly, the one there, grab that one on the end, guess that one. That's sweet, man. The moose coming up from the water. That's cool.
That's the game. That's right. That's the game.
That's a game hat.
That's the game hat.
Sweet. Okay. Sweet. So tell us about just the designing of the logo, the picking of the logo. How do you go about that? That's an interesting process in itself, I think.
You know, we hired a firm called Brandios, which is, in my mind, one of the best out there. And what was great about them as a design firm is that they threw out a rough draft, and they didn't get angry when we didn't like it. And we made this moose go through about 50 revisions until we got the perfect moose. My team was pulling moose photos off the internet saying, this is not a moose, this looks like a horse, or a, and I mean, it was just amazing, the process and how patient they were, and we kept on saying, hey, we like this, we don't like that, and they didn't take offense, and it was a real collaborative effort between them, our staff. The community had told us what they thought about Missoula, and so we tried to really incorporate that into the design. So we were throwing that back at them. They were here in person doing focus groups, meeting with people in the community. So they took time to understand what this community is about. And it just was a great collaboration.
It was a process of months, though. It was a long time, and lots of phone calls and lots of yes and no's.
Peter, you sort of referenced this. By the way, Peter Davis, Matt Ellison here, the owner, vice president of the Missoula Paddleheads, now Missoula Paddleheads. He said, we'd like to maybe update the logo. Stay with the Osprey, but maybe do something that's a little bit different. And I think a lot of people would say, hey, that makes sense. You could do some new merch, get some new stuff out there and that sort of thing. And you said, but eventually it evolved. But was there a tipping point where you said, no, we got to do the whole thing. We got to overhaul the whole deal. Was there a moment where you and your wife, who I know is also very, very involved in this, said, this is what we're going to do?
Actually, I think we're at the winter meetings last year, and the three of us, Matt and Susan and I, were talking. We say, well, we could do this, and then it kind of, is that enough? It just kept growing, and it never quite seemed like it was. It was tweaking. It just didn't seem right to me. Let's just do something, frankly, big and bold, which is where we ended up. But the key part of all that conversation is we always thought that it has to be about Missoula. This is not about the Western United States. It's not about the Rocky Mountains. It's about Missoula. And what is Missoula? And the images have to really represent Missoula. 100%, which was really a great place to land and a focus for us the entire time.
And Matt, there's a lot of people out here who had the reaction to that you yourself had, as you said on stage today. I don't know if a moose does that. Is a moose really Missoula? Moose is Montana. Is it Missoula? And then what happened?
Well, Friday, March 8th, we were having a conference call with Brandios and our staff. Our whole team was on the call, and we were down to like 6 finalists. And Paddleheads was in the lead. Everybody was talking about it. And I just said, hey, I'm going to be the naysayer here. I have a hard time with a moose being tied to Missoula. I get it, Rock Creek. I've fished at Rock Creek. You watch for moose.
Right.
I get it, it's the region, but is it Missoula? And then sure enough, we're on the call, and this alert comes on our phones. There's a moose in downtown Missoula. And I think it came from law enforcement, this alert. So we got online as we're on our call, and we're looking at it, and all the news entities are going crazy. And they actually tranquilized the moose at 11 a.m. that day, because it was that morning we were on the phone. And he was a block from the office.
So what you're telling me is that
from our MSO hub
has delivered this to you.
You better believe, absolutely.
No doubt.
The universe spoke.
So, I don't care. I don't know what angel it was, whether it was my son or Hal Frazier from Play Ball Missoula,
right.
What community member it was, but somebody told us that was the name.
That's it, right there.
I think when we talked initially about this, there was only one other osprey anywhere in the world that was a mascot. This is the only Paddleheads, though.
No
right?
doubt.
So, I mean, just from a marketing and
perspective, I mean, when people type in paddlehead or when they search this,
Right.
I mean, you guys are going to be number one. I mean, that has to be great just from a business aspect, right?
There's some paddle clubs that are, that have a similar thing, but we're the only sports team with the name Paddlehead. And we found out today that there's a lot of moose lovers out there. The other thing that was funny in this call is I said about the moose, and then the Brandios guys are like, go to your airport. You got moose everywhere in the gift shop. It's like it's an image that Montana embraces. It's part of our state, and we feel pretty good about it. And it's a tough son of a gun. We agree with Bobby Houck.
Hey, there's no doubt about that. Of all the animals you don't want to meet, the moose is right at the top of the list, at least in North America. The hippo in Africa, actually, the most deadly creature in Africa. Would you have guessed? Peter Davis and Matt Ellis with us here in studio, owner and vice president of the Missoula Paddleheads. People have been waiting to hear what this is going to be. Many of them, if not most of them, with a predetermined negative reaction to this because they, again, as we talked about, had the affinity that they had for the osprey and so forth. You've been looking on social medias throughout the course of the day, seeing what people are saying, and there has been a number of good comments and then a lot of not so good comments. What would you like to convey to the community, to people who are still going, what have we done here? Why did we do this? This was a bad idea.
Well, this is what I told my season ticket holders at a season ticket holder event when they were mad at us. Okay? I said, give us a chance and actually take the time to actually look at what we come up with. And this was before I had a final product. And now that we have a final product, I stand behind that 100%. Take a time to actually go through our logo set and look at it and realize what we have come up with. And tell us that it doesn't meet the heart of what this community is about. I mean, we're very proud of what we came up with. And we've also been consulted and told, it's going to be a negative reaction right out of the chute by some people, and then it will grow on them right away.
Yeah.
And we found that we probably minimized that negative reaction with the quality of our logo set. So we're pretty proud about that. Social media tends to be negative to begin with, so I'm not going to get too hung up on that.
What? Twitter? It's not all love on Twitter?
We've been the Timberjacks on Saturday nights, right?
Yes,
for quite some time. Sure. Right, so we'll still be the Osprey. Maybe the Osprey on Friday, Timberjack Saturday, and the Paddleheads on Thursday.
Yeah.
So there still will be Osprey playing in our field once a week, maybe. We still have the Osprey in center field, and to me, it's a continuum of names. We had the Highlanders, the Timberjacks, the Osprey, and now we have the Paddleheads. So it's just an evolution of names of professional baseball teams in Missoula.
It's interesting too, because a lot, especially in minor league baseball, some teams have gone for the bizarre, right? We're not doing Bulldog. We're not doing Wildcat. We're doing Sand Gnat. We're doing Isotopes. We're doing whatever. Now, some of that...
Fresh Pandas,
exactly. And some of that stuff is just like, I take it to be just fun for fun's sake, but not... I don't know that the Fun Pandas represent any particular community in the United States, if I'm aware of where pandas are endemic to. And so, but this is sort of both, right? Where it's utterly unique, that it is the only one, which was part of the process. I mean, you said to me, again...
Yep, absolutely.
You think 500 names that we got, and 400 of them were literally not usable because they've been spoken for. They're out there, so we had to find something. So it is unique, but also, like you said, you think really represents the city of Missoula.
At
this
one
place
point we proposed 5 names, and we weren't even serious about it. Let's just see what happens, and most of them got rejected, just right out of the chute. And fishing and things about fishing or paddling and the river rafting and stuff, river rafters and all sorts of names like that. None of them were available.
Gone.
Well, okay.
Was there ever a moment during the process where you started looking at that and finding out, oh man, there are something where you said, maybe we should just stay with the Osprey? Or once you made that decision, you said, full steam ahead, we're going to do this?
Not seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, at some points we thought, wow, this is a pretty big task.
Right.
This is enormous.
Right.
But yeah, no, we just kept pushing through.
Again, to me, I think I probably shared a lot of the sentiments of a lot of people initially, and there's still time for this to sort of work on people and how they feel about it. But when it comes to the color schemes, the logos that you came up with, really, I mean, my personal take, outstanding. I mean, I think it looks so very sharp. I love the color scheme. I think the orange and green, nails it in a lot of ways to me. And so very well done on that front as far as I'm concerned. And I think people, if you've only heard the names, if you're only listening on the radio and going, what the heck is a paddlehead? And you're screaming at your radios, go take a look at it, because I think you'll be really impressed with what they've come up with. And again, it's not to the extinction of any of the other timberjacks or the osprey that have been there before. It's all kind of gets worked in there together. So very well done.
Let me go back again and say the osprey's still going to be in center field.
Right.
We're still going to celebrate the osprey, but it's just one of the many names we're going to use.
And at the end of the day, people are caring about minor league baseball in Missoula at a high level, even no matter what the reaction is right now today, right? And at the end of the day, that's the entire point.
We've had 7 countries involved in looking at our hats and trying to buy hats.
On the web.
And that's in like the first 4 hours. What's cool is we have 5 hats, and all 5 are selling equally across the board. So people are liking them all, and they all appeal to a different set of people. And if you're in Missoula, one of these hats is bound to touch a nerve. That's a good, positive thing. Whether it's the peace sign that's been on the hill for years that's no longer there, whether it's the M hat, which is more traditional baseball, whether it's the state hat that celebrates fly fishing in our river, the float, whatever it is, there's something there for everybody.
The fly fishing one, too, that one's going to be one that maybe has some crossover appeal, too, right?
Exactly.
People might not even tag it to a minor league baseball. There's like, oh, that's my fishing hat. That's a good one.
Exactly.
Peter, one more for you on this. Since you've come over and taken over ownership of the team, you and your wife, Susan, you've done a lot, in terms of upgrading the message board, the video board there, changing some of the food and beverage options in the stadium that I know you spent a lot of time doing, and now this, which is maybe the biggest undertaking of all of those in some ways. And what going forward, though, can people expect from now the Missoula Paddleheads? And you've consistently been very engaged and trying to improve the product, at every turn as you see it and as you're able. But is there, in the future, in the next year, 2, 5, 10 years, what can people expect from minor league baseball and Pioneer League baseball in Missoula?
See, our focus from day one is the fan experience, and we have great entertainment in between innings and stuff. Sam and the Zootown crew have been really extraordinary. Mm-hmm. And Sam's going to stay with us year round now, and we're working on what that's going to be next year. So we just want to try to do everything bigger and better and be more effective at it. We opened up the new pub out and in left field, and we made a step in that direction. We want to open it bigger and better next year, make it more available possibly. And so we just want to expand on trying to make the best fan experience we can, and we want to use the ballpark year round. So we had movies in September.
Right.
We had free movies for families, right? And parents brought their kids, and they laid in center field and watched kid movies, which was really extraordinary. It was free movies on Friday, right?
Right.
Then we did the haunted house, put almost 1,000 people through the stadium for the haunted house, which was really, really fun and really cool to do. So we're trying to find more uses for the ballpark, use it year round, and we really want to focus in terms of baseball on how can we make this the best fan experience we can possibly. And how can we work with people like the Native American tribes around? We had Indigenous Night, which was extraordinary. Yeah. We had Pride Night, which was also extraordinary. We want to really focus on the community side also, and kind of just build our relationships throughout the community as much as we can.
Gotta love that enthusiasm from your boss, right?
No doubt.
That's awesome.
No doubt. I have a lot of enthusiasm for my boss. It's not necessarily always so focused as that, which is the thing. Guys, really great to have you. And again, I know this has been such a huge day and a lot going on. So for you to come down here and be with us, we appreciate it. And the amount of work and effort and obviously thought that has gone into this, tremendous. So really, best to you guys on this and on this project. And, to the community members, give it a look. Give it a look. Let it feel.
So I got a couple things I'll throw out.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So Hot Stove on MLB Network tomorrow will be wearing our hats.
Okay.
Levitard will be wearing our hats this week on ESPN.
Nice. Yeah.
So on your
radio.
guys' show, if you watch them on TV, they'll be wearing our stuff.
Nice.
ESPN Sports Center on ESPN2 on Saturday morning will be showing our stuff. So this is we've gotten a lot of nationwide feedback that this is really cool.
Yeah.
And so we're pretty excited about that. So your mothership is all over this.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Try to, they expect. Levitar's worn the Osprey stuff. You know that he's going to love the paddlehead stuff, for crying out loud when it comes through. Are we going to do a float to the stadium?
We got
night
Sammy B on that.
down there.
We're working on it. We're figuring it out.
No question.
All right, let me know. I'm going to start.
Get in your trunks. We're ready to do it.
I'm going to start in Butte. And I'm just going to come all the way down. Let's have a big ride of it. It's going to be great, guys. Again, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. Congratulations.
Thanks for carving some football time for us.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Quick break. We'll come back. Speaking of football, Monday Night Football, barn burner. The Giants are playing. Maybe not such a barn burner. It'll be fun anyways. We'll do it next.
We combine quality ingredients with home-style recipes to create the Montana Club's fall comfort food menu. Savor our tender boneless beef short rib or caramelized brandy apple pork shank. Dig into our classic savory chicken pot pie or fall for our zesty skillet lasagna. Top things off with our creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode. Scratch-made comfort food that's as real as it gets. Served 11:30 to close at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Do you know what's at stake after a car accident? Not only will you have to deal with pushy insurance companies, auto repair shops, endless doctor's appointments, and dozens of unforeseen problems, but also your normal day-to-day life. I'm Coulter here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys, and she knows how hard this can be.
That's right. And with all of that, it can seem tempting to take the quick settlement that the insurance company is offering, but I can tell you from experience that it is not going to be a fair amount. I see it all the time where someone has settled with the insurance company and months later realizes that they still have pain from the accident, and now they're having to pay those bills out of their pocket. I don't want that to happen to anyone.
So what should our listeners do, Catherine?
Give us a call and discuss your situation with an attorney. The call is free and we'll gladly talk about your situation with you. If you have a case that we can help with, you will owe us nothing out of pocket. We actually make the insurance company pay for us to help you.
There you have it. Call the Advocates at 406-640-4444 or go online, montanaadvocates.com. You deserve the Advocates on your side.
Hello, Missoula. I'm Stephen Smith, the second music director finalist for your Missoula Symphony. Please join me November 2nd and 3rd as I conduct the Missoula Symphony Orchestra and Chorale. We will perform a selection of old American songs by Aaron Copland and dances by Borodin, Brahms' Joyful Symphony No. 2, and the lively Roman Carnival Overture from Berlioz. For tickets, please call 721-3194 or visit MissoulaSymphony.org. I'll see you at the concert.
The 2019-2020 season is proudly sponsored by the Good Food Store.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Looking for something refreshing but different? Stop by your local Town Pump. They've got the perfect refreshers. White Claw, Truly, and Smirnoff Seltzer 12-pack cans, $14.99. And Cook's 1.5 liter, only $10.99. Find all your refreshments at Town Pump, right down the road.
It's only 5:30, you're up, awake, and ready for the day. At Florence Coffee Company, you'll find a light on and a friendly barista. In the cold, dark month of November, we want to reward you with the Florence Coffee Early Bird Special. Weekday mornings between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m., we will upgrade your purchase one whole size. It's early, it's special, and it ends November 30th. Offered at all 20 Floco locations, and visit us at FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Our thanks to Peter Davis and Matt Ellis for coming down, talking us through everything that had to do with the Missoula Paddleheads baseball logo, team, etc. I guess the team's the same. The logo and the name have changed. It is Tootell and Nuanez. Did I say that? Yes, okay. Good to be with you. We're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show today, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. You can get your Tootell and Nuanez podcast everywhere. Okay. Okay, so go check it out. It's brought to us by the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Want to just plug this quickly also. This week, our ESPN Roundtable with half of the coaching staff of the University of Montana men's basketball team. Chris Cobb, the associate head coach, and Zach Payne, brand new assistant coach, came in and joined us. They joined us last week. Why? Because they're headed for Stanford tomorrow to open the 2019-2020 season. The Grizzlies are at Stanford Wednesday night. They leave tomorrow, though, for that. But it's a great interview. Fun to be with those guys. Learn a little bit about Zach Payne, his history, his background, and all that. And Chris Cobb, obviously, who's been here for the whole run with Travis DeCure, and so our appreciation to them for being in here, and you'll hear that on the show on Wednesday, and then again at noon on Thursday on ESPN Radio. Coulter, tonight, Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. This game is in New York City. By the way, how about the mighty New York Jets, huh? Way to get the Dolphins their first win. Congratulations to Adam Gase. The Giants are a 6.5-point home underdog to the Dallas Cowboys this evening. This game only matters to the Dallas Cowboys because the ship has sunk for the New York Giants. I shouldn't even say that. This was never the year for the New York Giants to be any good. This is like,
and they've got complete false notions of them having some. When the first two games are against the Redskins and the Bucks, all of a sudden Danny Dimes looks good, and it's just not the case. I mean, he's fine. I think he's actually better than I thought he was going to be, even though he hasn't been great. But they had this jolt when they went with Daniel Jones, and it was just a false illusion because they're just bad.
The Dallas Cowboys, Coulter, are 4-3. They are on top of the NFC East over Philadelphia, who's 5-4. Now, notably, the Cowboys have had a bye, and the Eagles have not, and the Eagles played and won yesterday, and the Dallas Cowboys are about to play and win tonight, my guess. But the Cowboys, do they have... What is the reasonable aspiration for this Cowboys team this season?
Well, I mean, winning the division and win a playoff game or two.
Well, I mean, isn't the difference between one or two significant? I mean, if you win a wild... neither of us expects them to have a bye, right? They're going to be playing in Wild Card Weekend if they make the postseason. I think they will make the postseason, although Philadelphia still might have something to say about this because only one team from the NFC East is going to the playoffs. But if they go to the playoffs and they play either, say they played the Seahawks, say they played, the Minnesota Vikings, for instance, one of the wild card teams. Maybe it's the Packers. Maybe it's the Niners. I don't know. Is that a game they're going to win on the road? I don't think so. Like, this feels like a 1-0 playoff team for me. They could win. I think if they won a wild card game, I think if they won a playoff game, it would be an overachievement. And you know why I think that? Because Jason Garrett's their head coach.
It's also crazy that, I mean, the NFC East was always in the conversation as one of the toughest divisions in football, and it's not now. No, it's one of the worst divisions in football.
For sure.
But that's just wild. I mean, the Giants were never in the land of bad. Even when they were down for them, they were still okay, and you knew you had to bring it to beat the Giants, even when they were, a 7-9, 8-8 type team.
Yeah.
It's the Redskins are the Redskins, but it seems to me like, I don't know what do you think of the Eagles? Are the Eagles ever going to get it back? It seems to me that Doug Peterson beat Bill Belichick and has just been straight mediocre since then.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles they're just not nearly as good basically in any facet as they were two years ago.
And they're one of the only teams in the league when you watch them play. There's a lot of teams that are bad and you watch them play and you're like, well, they're bad because they don't have that many good players. The Eagles are one of the only teams in the league you watch, and they're like, they're bad because they don't play well.
Totally, and
they have good players, they just don't play well.
That's why I still think that they could figure it out and win the division. But if the Eagles did do that, let's put it like this: I don't think whoever comes out of the East is doing anything in the postseason.
Yeah,
I mean, winning a game or two in the postseason, no, I don't think so. I don't think 0 wins in the postseason.
Eagles got to get a speed guy back because their whole offense is a mechanism. And
Sean Jackson out 6 weeks.
Deshaun Jackson not being able to take the top off makes Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar average to below average. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey looks washed. I mean, he looks washed. The other week when they were on Sunday Night Football, there was that throw where Chris Collinsworth, in Chris Collinsworth typical fashion, was like, did he forget to jump to the ball? It's like, no, he doesn't know how. He can't jump anymore. He's washed.
Turned around.
And Aguilar can't really catch. And Zach Ertz, who's supposed to be one of the great threats over the middle of the field, who's still a great talent, if he doesn't have that speed guy, then he's not as good as he could be either. And they used to have so many of the slash type guys led by Darren Sproles. He's not the same as he used to be either. They just don't have the pieces to run the attack.
Let me just say this about the Cowboys. Dak Prescott has been this season, has taken the next step as a quarterback. Yes, he has. He has.
Is he actually any better than he was when that year they went 13-3?
Yes, he is.
Why do you think that?
Because he's throwing the ball better to more
Is he, though? Because he padded his stats for the first 3 weeks of the year when no one knew how to defend Kellen Moore's offense, and then he looked terrible for the next 3 weeks.
He is better. He is improved as a quarterback, better than what I thought he was going to be.
So what does that make him then? Like the 14th best guy in the league?
Yeah, maybe 12.
Who would you rather have, him or Jacoby Brissett?
Right now, him.
It's a pretty good conversation, though. And Jacoby Brissett will never be worth $40 million. Dak Prescott's the biggest landmine in the league because he's going to get overpaid. He's not worth what he's going to demand on the open market.
Okay, no argument there. I'm not here to talk about value. I'm just here to talk about the player. And what I'm saying is the player Dak Prescott today is better than the player Dak Prescott a year or 2 years ago. That's all I'm saying. And that's good because you've talked about this a bunch of times, and it's super true at the NFL level. Presumed improvement is not at all. A lot of guys have just gotten worse or shown who they truly are, however you want to say it. Dak Prescott has in fact gotten better, and he's to be commended for that. Where he is in the rankings and all that, I'm not sitting here to debate it. I do think he's better than his counterpart, Danny Dimes, this particular evening. Here's the thing about the Cowboys, though, Coulter. They win their first 3 against the likes of these very Giants, the hapless Redskins, the hapless Dolphins. They lose to the Saints, good game, 12-10. They lose to the Packers, 34-24. Then they lost to the Jets 2 weeks ago.
And that game was the game that made me think, man, like, has Dak Prescott got better? He got lost against a team that is now officially, after yesterday, the worst team in the league. They just lost to the Dolphins. They're the worst team in the league for this week in the NFL.
They did bounce back and hammered the Eagles last week.
They did.
And I expect them to win again. That said, this is no guarantee that Dallas does win tonight, though I think they're a 6.5-point favorite. The other thing I want to talk to you about, Coulter, Sunday night football and the Patriots getting run. Oh, yeah, excuse me. They had a bye last week. Right. It was 2 weeks ago they beat.
I know all about the Cowboys because I just wrote a story about Kellen Moore because him and Matt Miller hung out in the offseason. So I just dissected the Cowboys schedule, and that's exactly why I was thinking to myself, man, Dak Prescott really maybe isn't any better.
I think he is.
But last night, Lamar Jackson put on the crown for a moment. Lamar Jackson is the guy right now for this moment in time, and it always will change. And so when you catch lightning in a bottle, it's pretty unique, and you never know what's going to go awry. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was wearing this crown last year, and look at him now. I mean, he's still elite, but he's hurt. Well, Lamar Jackson is the dude for this moment in time.
The NFL is a week-to-week league. What do we mean when we say that? You have no idea what's going to happen next week based on what happened the previous week. The Ravens lost at home to take a division lead to the Cleveland Browns by 20. The Browns are awful.
They're awful.
And the Ravens are really good. But guess what? That's not what happened. Here's what happened last night that never happens. You do not score an opening possession touchdown on the New England Patriots. You do not go up 17-0. You do not fumble a punt and then turn the ball over again, giving points to the New England Patriots on consecutive possessions because of your ineptitude, and win the game. And they didn't just win. They blew out New England last night, 37-20, and half of those points were gift wrapped to the New England Patriots. What a beatdown by the Baltimore Ravens, who absolutely came to play. And New England is an outstanding team. New England is the 100% number one, no questions asked, Super Bowl contender in the AFC. And also the first actually good team that they played, they lost to. Okay? That's all I'm saying. All of these things are true. This isn't get off the Patriots bandwagon. I'm not sitting here saying anything. By the way, the Patriots won the Super Bowl last year, and in the first game of that season, I think they lost by 30 to the Kansas City Chiefs in their home opener. Okay, so these things happen,
and these things spark the Patriots almost always.
100%. Oh, Bill Belichick is going to have a field day with his football team. But what I am saying is, it does. When you hear Sam Darnold say, "I'm seeing ghosts," what that makes the defense believe they are in fact superheroes. And last night they got completely shellacked by a guy who's just better. I mean, when you watch Lamar Jackson fake back up the field like towards his own end zone, and Van Noy leaps like a cheetah in that very direction, you got the defense moving them wherever you want them, and he waltzes up the field into the end zone. I mean, it was absolutely remarkable, and he is the most electric player to watch in the NFL right now. No close second.
No close second. And this is why stats are for losers, right? I mean,
for losers.
Lamar Jackson, quote unquote, only had 225 yards of total offense last night. But he completely owned the game. I mean, Tom Brady threw for 285. Lamar Jackson had combined passing and rushing 225. Mm-hmm. And Lamar Jackson was the better guy, the better quarterback, the better leader, the better operator, everything. I was very impressed by the Ravens. The Ravens have had a wholesale change on defense, and they've empowered Lamar Jackson offensively, and they look like a totally different team. And they are probably the same best team in the AFC right now.
Dallas -6.5 at the Giants tonight.
I got the Cowboys.
Give me the Giants against the number. Woo! Boys and girls, enjoy Monday Night Football. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow. Look forward to being with you then. Tootell, Nuanez, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana TV.
When your football team scores, sometimes you want to celebrate with a shot. Other times, your team might be getting whipped. You need a beer. At Katie O'Keefe's, you don't have to choose. Every Monday and Thursday from 6 to 10 p.m., come watch the NFL and enjoy a premium shot and a beer for just $6. That's right, a shot and a beer for $6. Located in the Stevens Center, Katie O'Keefe's is also offering $2 pounder cans of Rainier, PBR, and Busch Light. Monday and Thursday night football at Katie O'Keefe's, where the drinks are always cold and the people are always friendly.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
The big skies are open. Go wild with Opportunity Reward Checking. Go ahead, jump, dance, shout. Opportunity Reward Checking will make you do that. Go wild when you get your 1% cash back on qualified debit card purchases. It all starts with an Opportunity Reward Checking account from Opportunity Bank. Visit a branch today to get started. Then go wild and spend your 1% cash back however you want. Go wild with Reward Checking from Opportunity Bank. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC.
More than 60 years ago, R.J. Rangich opened up Rangich Brothers with one thing in mind: quality and family tradition. Those family traditions continue today and live through our family, staff, and those who buy our RVs. So whether your travels include the shores of Flathead, Glacier Peaks, Yellowstone Geysers, or the hidden gems in between, jump into Jayco and experience the best freedom you and your family will ever know. Only where a handshake means something. Rangich Brothers RV Center.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassles for you so you can just focus on getting better.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. The Advocates are on your side.
From well-loved characters like Charlie Brown and the Gruffalo to a wizard kitten and robots saving whales, the Kidomatic Film Festival will feature family-friendly films to inspire kids of all ages. November 14th through the 17th. Hosted by the Roxy Theater and Global and Cultural Affairs of Arts Missoula, this festival includes 4 days of fun activities, imaginative presentations, and over 25 short and featured-length films, screening November 14th through the 17th at the Roxy. To learn more about the Kidomatic Film Festival, go to kidomatic.org.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.